Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for being here at the dotConnect 2024. Here we're going to do a developer roundtable. My name is Freddy Montes. I'm technical product manager at dotCMS, and with me is Alejandro Cuba and Nicolas Molina. But I'm gonna let you guys to introduce yourself. So Alejandro, go for it.
Hey everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Alejandro. I'm a principal front-end engineer at WorkConnect. I'm also part of the Google Developer Expert program as a GDE in Angular. I'm an NG champion and also co-organizer of the Angular community meetup. It's my pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Okay, in my case, I am Nicolas Molina. I am part of the program Google Developer Expert, also in Alejandro. I am a Angular Developer Expert, and I be part of the Microsoft program also, and I'm a senior front-end developer at dotCMS. Yeah.
We bring the big guns. So, guys, today we're going to do a really different thing. We're going to do like a rapid fire takes kind of game. We're going to talk about a lot of front end and what's going on in the front end world, which is everything moving really, really fast. We're going to discuss current trends, debugging some myth, and exploring what's real or what is hype in the front end world. So let's start with the trend tracker. So we're going to have like 30 minutes to discuss specific trends. And I'm going to start on fire, right?
Okay.
I'm going to start on fire, and this is something that we hear a lot in .cms. Um, a CMS will always slow down your site performance. What do you think, Ale?
Not necessarily. It depends on CMS configuration, caching strategies. How do you architect the entire ecosystem? How do you integrate the CMS with your front end? So slowing down or not depends pretty much on many different aspects. And what about you, Nico?
In my opinion, every decision involves trade-off, and using a CMS is not a session. However, it's possible to create a faster site even using a CMS. For example, if your CMS provide or offer an API or CDK, it is possible integrate with other frameworks like Astor, for example, to create or generate static content. And in this way, it's possible to create fast sites using this kind of techniques. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate and don't tell my boss. If your endpoints on the CMS are slow, it could happen. I mean, at the end of the day, like Nico said, there is a lot of trade-off. I mean, it could depend on what are you actually trying to get out of the CMS. Are you doing the right request? Are you doing the request in the right place? Could be in the back end. You can do it in the front end. You can do it in Node. I mean, it could be a different million things, right? But at the end, if you feel something is slow, you can, if you're doing this request in the browser, of course, you can go to the network tab and try to figure it out how long the server is taking in response. And if that server is your CMS, then you can go to the CMS vendor and say, hey, I need this to be faster. So there are definitely other ways. So yeah, again, basically agreed on you with you guys. It's nothing to do with the CMS or not being a CMS that makes your site slow. That being said, server side rendering is back, like super back. And do you think that that is a most, or is it something more like, you know, depend on the use case? I'm going to start with Nico on this one.
Okay, and always depends is the better response, but the need for server-side rendering depends of the specific goal or the behaviors of your website. For I think for content-heavy sites such as e-commerce or platform or dynamic content sites, I think server-side rendering is critical because you need SEO by allowing certain giants like a Google to index content. Yeah, you need reach or engage your users. You need SEO, and in this case, server-side rendering is important or critical to achieve this kind of goal. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Alejandro? What do you think?
Yeah, I
Most is a
totally
must?
resonate with Nico. I think it's mostly situational because you can get several cases where it's more simpler and straightforward with less amount of over engineering, going with a simpler static rendering or client-side rendering. But the most important thing is if you have to focus on SEO or any other capabilities that you might need in order to bring SSR into the table. You don't probably want to go in a destructive way. I mean, like bringing hydration negatively to impact the performance of the web application, and trying to use approaches where hybrid hydration or incremental hydration, for example, in the case of Angular from version 18, supports the capability to restore the what already was brought to the front end side from the back end, and trying to keep the state management and the resource loading in check. So that is
Yeah,
something to consider. If we go with SSR, let's do it the best we can.
yeah, and the other side of things is like you can render specific sections of your site in the server, and then you can hydrate and start rendering other pieces of your site or your page, sorry, in the client. So it doesn't have to be a black or white thing. You can always be really smart on how the data or the content on your page gets in. So yeah, I would definitely say it's a situational one. Now, this is something that always people like is really passionate about. Tailwind.
Tell
Let's talk about Tailwind. Is that revolutionary or is more like an unnecessary crutch? How did you guys see that?
I feel it's revolutionary, especially in prototyping and quickly ramping up anything that we have in mind. But you can also have people, especially most experienced front-end developers that started their journey few years or decades ago, and they tell you that, hey, Tailwind is super restrictive or maybe too much opinionated or obtrusive in a way that is probably not a good idea to bring it to the front-end application. But again, is an answer that pretty much depends on the team ability to adapt and use Tailwind in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I,
What do you say, Nico? How do you see it?
yeah, to be honest, I was skeptical about Tailwind, CCS, but after using iPhone, is to be a great CCS framework. Tailwind with the pattern about utility first approach, strongly the process of building websites, and even the AI tools generate code using Tailwind
Yeah.
because it's like a standard for the modern web development. And yeah, you know CCS for toilet or custom website, but I think it's great. And right now AI generates code based in Tailwind, and it's so common right now.
Yeah. I used to be the most Tailwind hater in the world. I used to say like it's just too much opinionated. You gotta put a lot of classes
No.
in the HTML. That doesn't make sense to me. And I still there are some use cases for Tailwind that I don't think that they make sense. They're never gonna make sense. If you can't encapsulate your class names in components, I think that still is not a good idea. But because right now every front-end developer use components, Tailwind just goes really, really long on that. Right.
Mhm.
So, and like Nico was saying, like basically, I will say that 99% of the AI tools that are generating front-end code are using Tailwind. And I don't see that going away anywhere. So I don't want to call it revolutionary, but I do think it's a amazing tool to just create pages really, really fast.
And let's not
So yeah,
forget that we have the opportunity to continue leveraging the SAS preprocessors capabilities, like creating mixins, and also even in adopting the include, no, sorry, the apply directive that
yes.
Tailwinds offer. So that way you obs make the obtrusiveness on the HTML side less pain for the developer and also for anyone that would like to read the HTML that you generate or any AI generated for you.
Yeah, and again, people that don't know CSS are able to use Tailwind and come up with something really good in a fairly amount of time. So at the end of the day, it's the same idea of like we're democratizing technology, so people now have access to make sure that their site looks good. So again, like I said, I used to be the hater of Tailwind, but now I'm completely on the opposite side. I think it's great. I think it has a really pretty good use cases. So really nice. Now the next one, and this one makes me sad. Web components. Do they live up to the promise? I'm gonna say, and I want to start on this one. I used to be the person that it was more hyped about web component. I do. I think that we actually need some kind of UI components native in the browser, not dependent on any frameworks. I wish we had that, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
I think that the first time I heard about web components was by Ionic. Ionic create design system just using web components and just to avoid create component for each framework. But right now, it's not enough. Yeah, right now the frameworks have different techniques for render. And for example, in Angular, in Nest.js, and Quick, for example, have different ways to render. And in order to create faster render, this kind of frameworks needs handle or have the control to the
The
components and
control of the
even
component. Yeah, that's
exactly
true.
and the web components is not enough for great involves or new ways to render, for example, with high resumability by quit or pattern
Mhm.
hydration. Web component is not working with this kind of new techniques in this new
Yeah, and let's
framework.
be honest, the frameworks move faster than the standards. So that's that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What do you
Exactly.
think,
And that,
Ali?
yeah, that type of strong reusability that was promised by the web component in the HTML standards originally. I think that was back in 2015 or 2017 that
Yeah.
they completely uh,
yeah.
announced and finished the standardization process for web components. But there is so much that has happened in the frameworks that is kind of challenging for web components to keep in the same pace. But
Yeah.
Angular offers something that is called Angular Elements, and I don't want to evangelize too much Angular here, but it's the closest mechanism I've seen in frameworks to transpile the capabilities from the Angular components, I mean, including data binding, a little bit of exchange detection, life cycle, and transporting that to the corresponding equivalent in the web platform specification. So technically, if you import the Angular slash elements package in your application, something that I don't do in most of the applications that I currently maintain, but hypothetically, you can try that, and that way you will be bringing things to the browser that are native to them.
Yeah. We try internally at dotCMS and we get fairly good results. The packaging, the bundling is not there yet, though. The end result is just a huge JavaScript bundle. But like, it's a pretty neat idea. I wish that there is more around that area. Let's see. Okay, and to finish this one, let's finish with now that we're talking about bundling, front-end dev tools. Are we buried in too much tooling or we need more?
I think in the front ecosystem, there are different ways to solve the same problem. For example, in this period, they are allowed tooling chain into Rust, for example, just avoid Webpack and replace for TurboPack or something else, because they are new ways to solve the same problem more efficiently. And I think in this way, it's just the JavaScript ecosystem. Yeah, it's part of the JavaScript ecosystem. Have a frameworks, different ways to solve the same problem. And I think it's um, a good point in our ecosystem. It's just JavaScript with tools.
I
Yeah,
think
what
that
a
a good mental and also a digital tooling that we can bring to I mean, to help our sanity and not overloading too much is keeping a sort of a tech radar close to you so that way you identify tools, frameworks, methods, things that can help you boost your productivity and not getting you into the analysis paralysis or checking things because they are trendy only and they are super popular right now in 2024 that probably not gonna get anywhere in the next couple of years. And this is a very, very fast-paced industry.
yeah.
And
But I think
overtooling
I
is probably going to be harmful for developers, but at the same time, we have to actually rely on something external. Otherwise, we have to spend valuable amount of time building our own set of tooling. So it's a trade-off.
what I actually seen is like when you met a developer that is working like in a side project or on a small project, they use the latest and the greatest. When you talk to developers that are working in companies building product or building specific things with teams, with large teams, and a lot of money involved, that is not always using the latest and greatest. Like, not
Yeah.
at all. They're using good technology, they're using new things a little bit, but it's not like every time something new pops out on Twitter, they just jump rump it into MP and install it. It doesn't work that way. Um, I don't think that we are overload. I think that we need to be careful and mindful about what we're putting into our projects and making sure that we actually need a new library to solve specific problem. I actually think that we are way better than years ago. Now, like if you're using Angular or you're using Next.js, they're doing their own building, they're doing their own, even sometimes even deploys. So you don't have to like look around too much. Frameworks are getting more and more opinionated, which is could be good or bad depending on what you're actually doing. So yeah, I think we're in a better spot actually. Okay, so this was cool. Let's go to the next one: myth or reality. And this is very interesting.
Hmm.
Myth or reality? JavaScript is all that you need for front-end development right now. I'm coming from design, so I'm biased.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, while JavaScript is a fundamental language for a front developer or the unique language for the front developer, um, I think there are others. For example, CCS plays a crucial role in defining a visual layout or responsive behavior on the web interface, having involved with capabilities like a flexbox, grid, and a custom properties that enable layouts and create this kind of behaviors without need JavaScript. Yeah, right now the majority the layouts is possible to create or for example to create a mastery grid is possible just using CCS without JavaScript. I think it's an important skill right now. Is JavaScript is not the old.
Yeah,
I heard the other day, I forgot what was the source, but if you have limited amount of time catching up with the latest front-end technologies or jumping from back-end to front-end or from biology to front-end, for example, you might probably want to spend a significant amount of time, like 75% of time learning CSS, and then start catching up with JavaScript or learning JavaScript because there is so much JavaScript that is brought to the bundle, increasing the size and also down sizing the performance of the application because developers doesn't understand too well what the CSS specification with the different modules that are already, in the latest version of the browsers offers. So that way, as Nico mentioned earlier, solid foundation. of CSS and also plus HTML can reduce the amount of JavaScript and TypeScript that you are going to bring over the amount of JavaScript that is already contained in in the framework that you might probably be using.
Yeah. I think it's both. I think it's a myth and a reality in sense of like the frameworks that are normally JavaScript frameworks are the ones that people see in the job application. So that's why they go all in with React or Angular and all this, and they forget about trying to learn CSS or anything. And definitely what you said, there is a lot of JavaScript written out there that it could be a few lines of CSS. And people you just don't know how to do it in CSS, especially in the animation side of things. Like they're going to animate a little button to change it from a circle to an icon or whatever, and they just throw GSAP on it. And it was like, that was just a couple of lines of CSS. So yeah,
Interactions,
okay.
models, transitioning, scrolling
Transition,
down,
all that,
things like
everything
that.
is
Mhm.
JavaScript, and it's like that's just CSS. And CSS is getting so powerful right now. It's really hard to keep up, actually. Okay, now this is oh my God. Front end is easier than back end. I honestly I feel like this that's a little bit a dumb statement. I mean it's just nothing is easier than other.
Mhm.
Software development is hard in general. I'm not saying that people that do software are geniuses, but they got to put some kind of effort into learning a lot of things in order to provide good software to the customer. But what do you guys think? I mean, let's start with Ale here.
Well, I would say front-end developers development in 2024 involve so many different aspects. If you were stating that myth in 2003, you might probably be in a different situation, but 20 years after that, it's not only the overall user experience that we need to take care of, but also state management, web performance, accessibility, integration with the backend, which can be in many cases more complex than working in the backend alone. So that type of comparison,
It
totally
doesn't make
agree
sense.
with you, Freddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends.
What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, I think both front end and back end development requires problem solving skills, attention to detail, and a strong understanding of software developer principles. And I think, yeah, the both sides have unique challenges. And I think now um, this sides, backend and frontend side is blurred because, for example, a framework like an Node.js is possible to create APIs or call it full stack framework. Um, and I think, yeah, this side is blurred, but the old roles have unique responsibilities, and it's not easy. It's front end is have hard challenges, and the bot in the back end they are a lot other challenges like a caching, load balancer, and yeah, in the both sides they are unique challenges and needs apply different skills.
Yeah, I'm agree. Then there is another one, like, and I've been hearing this for years. No code tools will replace front-end developers. So, I mean, I remember when the first time I tried a no code tool, uh, front page from Microsoft, it was okay-ish. And that's been, I don't know, 20 something years ago. We still have pseudo good enough no code tools. But the truth is that front-end developers, it's getting so demanding in terms of the value that we need to provide to the customers that they haven't found a way that a no-code tool can do everything. I think we're there, or some close to that in some cases, but sometimes you need to trade off on what you need to do and just let the no-code tool try to do the best it can. What do you guys think?
For prototyping, but front end itself demands a little bit more tailored solutions and front-end developers can offer value that is probably going to be very, very hard to achieve with a low code or no code tooling. The engineering thinking behind front-end development team is probably going to be hard to match in the at least in the short term or midterm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. While no-code tools can streamline the development process and empower non-technical users to build websites, they have limitations in terms of customization, scalability, and complexity. Front-end developers bring expertise in the user interface, interactivity, and performance optimization that is essential to create a high-quality applications. I think, yeah, no code is they are unlikely to replace front-end developers entirely, but it's a great option for build quickly prototypes, receive feedback too early. Yeah, I think it's not replace the area.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think there are some good tools for some specific cases, but it's not a silver bullet for everything for sure. Okay, now, myth or reality? Accessibility is optional. What do you guys think? I know we're all gonna say no, of course,
I think that you
but
have a mythology book over there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did my homework on like going into the nitty gritties into everything crazy that we hear online. What do you guys think about accessibility?
I think accessibility is not optional, and it's fundamental aspect of the web development to ensure equal access to information and service for all users. And I think it's not complicated in the majority case. It's just follow the best practice. In, for example, use semantic HTML and put description in your images these tips are basic and is just possible part of our workflow like a developers. I think it's not
Yeah.
optional.
We
What
are
do you
not
think,
just
Cal?
talking about the technical aspects of accessibility when we have to sell the importance of accessibility itself. From the product perspective, we we are not just referring to people that because of certain limitations they cannot use the visual interfaces that we might probably create out of a Tailwind theme from scratch, or something that was designed for the majority of the users that we expect that will be using our application. It's not just only about disabilities, but also regular users,
Yeah.
the typical user under situations like low network coverage or the amount of luminosity in the environment when we are using the device, let's say a mobile device, in certain conditions that will be very hard to do the action that is expected from the business behind the application to perform. So that way, if we don't offer a good accessibility, we are limiting the audience, and also we are probably opening a door for legal issues,
Yes.
especially on the European Union in 2025. And we are just developing and serving a user interface that is very limited to one specific and tailored set of users instead of thinking more globally in a very overall audience.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, the web as a platform is very accessible by default. Like if you know what you're actually writing in your HTML and you know CSS, not only, I mean, you don't even need too much CSS, but by default, if you write good HTML, your web page is accessible, or at least some level of accessibility. Because accessibility is not black and white. They're like it's like a, it's like a gradient of values or whatever. No, and this is part of what we're talking earlier today, which is the fact that everybody goes too deep into JavaScript and they didn't think about how to do anything else. But the fact is that web as a platform is very, very accessible. The frameworks that we use all the time take all of that into consideration. Most of the time, when you see a page that it doesn't have a good level of accessibility, it might be because the developer is not paying attention to implement the web pages or the components in a really good way. But pretty much all the frameworks have some kind of documentation on how to make sure that the pages that you build with them are accessible. There are a lot of accessibility information in the Mozilla documentation, and it's not hard. I think that people think it's super hard, but at the end of the day, it's just making sure that you're writing a good HTML structure, that you are know how to use the ARIA labels and all those sort of ARIA attributes, sorry, and all those sort. So it's not like a huge lift, especially if you start with the beginning, and especially if you start with the design team. So yeah, it's definitely not optional, and it's not hard to do.
Yeah, there is a free tooling over there like Lighthouse that automatically parse the application for you and generate a beautiful report with everything that you need to improve in order to make the application more accessible.
Yeah, and then while you're developing the web inspector, you have a bunch of queues like this is not accessible, all that. Like I said, I don't think it is a tech problem. I think it is more like I don't want to do that problem, but it's not hard. Okay, now that we're there, responsive design is media queries enough?
Yeah,
Probably not. Go ahead.
it's not enough. I think from my perspective, they are more uh, things to create responsive website or dynamic websites. For example, using content queries is a new way, or using a grid system is a
Hmm.
good way to create responsive layouts. And I think have conditions or in your CCS with the screen where the side of the screen is not enough. And right now they are different devices. For example, right now they are foldable smartphones, and
Yeah,
this kind of
even
devices are,
three, I don't know, it's just crazy.
yeah. And this is a new challenge for create dynamic layouts, and I think responsive or media queries is not enough. I need more ways. I think in this space, CCS is so powerful to create or to tackle this kind of new devices. And yeah, media queries is not enough.
Yeah, meta queries in CSS is not enough in order to provide a very solid and sound mechanism to offer a good experience under varying conditions. If we go back to HTML and set up the foundation for a keyboard navigation, and also in CSS we set everything together for a proper font scaling, we're probably going to increase and the ability to offer to the users a truly adaptable UI.
I'm going to go even a, a little upper level. I don't even, I don't think that they are not enough. They're actually limited. They limit the experience.
Mhm.
Because if you have to change your layout based on the screen size, your design, your UI, it might be wrong. I think that, I mean, maybe in 2005 or something like that, around those years, media queries were enough because we have like, I don't know, three or four fonts that can load a web page and maybe like three or four screen sizes, and that was it. But right now we have so many channels that it just doesn't make sense try to match your design to specific viewport sizes. So I think that we need, then that's why container queries came into the play, and like functions like min max, all those sort of things, and fit content and everything that CSS is providing is precisely because you shouldn't try to match your design to a specific viewport size. Your design, your UI should just flow to whatever you throw it. Especially you start at you. I normally start with the component level I make sure that my components will work if I throw it in a huge container or in a small container. And I think that's kind of like your design is going to scale better. And definitely respond and media queries are not allowing you to do that. They're actually constraining it to very specific conditions. So yeah. And I leave the last one, the best for the last one. All developers should be learning AI and machine learning to stay relevant. What do you guys think?
To an extent, right? Because I mean, it's a super hot topic right now,
It is.
but
It's the trending topic right now.
might become, I mean, AI might become especially more relevant to front-end developers down the road on things like AI agent personalization. I mean, offering tweaks to the AI, to the user interface depending on certain conditions that the AI might infer, and also data handling, web security, things like that that are probably boosted by AI recognition. But it's not an essential skill. I mean, learning AI in depth is not essential right now. It's not vital for the typical front-end developer. So it's good to understand the capabilities, the limits, every single boundary, but front end is still like a separate discipline that can learn a lot from machine learning in general from that field, but it's not life or death so far in
So far.
2024 and probably in 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this space is a new work. It's impossible now learn deeply AI and machine learning as a front-end developer, and instead understanding from the national concepts like a language model or create a great prompts or how to work a vector database. I think this kind of concept is important, and using AI like a tools is such as using Java Compiler or the new ideas like a cursor, is take advantage AI for boost your productivity. Yeah, I think and include these kind of tools in their workflows can enhance their capabilities without becoming an AI or machine learning experts.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I tried to
I'm
say. I mean, like front-end developers can get immediate value from mastering prompt engineering, knowing how to use a powerful IDE extension or an IDE like Cursor, but not necessarily spending valuable time on developing knowledge around the machine learning instead of knowing the foundation of the open web platform.
yes, I'm agree. I think that like Nico was saying, I'm kind of agree with you both in terms of like it doesn't mean that I have to tomorrow go and start taking machine learning courses and spending 40 hours a week doing that. It would be great if you can like read about it, maybe watch a little bit videos here and there of people or talking to people that is already doing that. So can you understand a little bit how this works, how the technology is being built and all those sort of things. But I think that's in general with any technology when you're working in a tech world. Like for ourselves, well, I know you guys, and I know that you guys are always like looking new things and talking about it and going to conference and all those sort of things. I think it's the same way. I think that with AI per se as tooling, I think that developers should be learning how to automate the task that they do that AI can do better. So they can focus in what they as developers, as humans, can do better. Right. So for example, using Cursor and all those sort of things for like refactor code or naming classes or all those sort of things, that's important. But that doesn't mean that you should just let that AI write all your code and you just chip it and you don't care about it. The other thing that I use AI a lot for is like just brainstorming idea. So one of the best things that one of these models can do is grab a bunch of text and organize it in a way that you can read it back and say, okay, this makes more sense. So I normally what I do with a lot of things is I just start talking to ChatGPT about a lot of things that I have all scrambled in my head, and then I said, give me that back in a better way. And I do that even for the GitHub issues that I have to solve. It's not like I'm just writing code with it. Um, but I do think that companies, customers, and in general, um, are going to expect more from developers than just writing code. So writing code for me is going to start getting cheaper and cheaper, and your value as a developer is going to increase as you can provide more things um, than just writing code. And I think that developers need to start thinking around business, around product, around marketing. And I'm not saying that you're going to have to be an expert in all of those topics, but I think that you need to know enough to be part of the decision making on the software that you're building, basically, and not just like sitting down waiting for the next ticket for you to just push the line of code. So yeah, I don't think that I do think that in a few years to be relevant, which is basically the question, AI is going to play a good role, and it's going to depend on how the developers use it. Okay, that was a long one. I've been thinking a lot about AI, by the way, as you can see. Okay, well, on the last one, it's a quick fire QA. And let's try to do these ones in one sentence. And I'm gonna start hard. What's the most overrated front-end framework right now? And I said overrated, not underrated. We're gonna get some enemies anyway, so be brave.
I think Angular. I think Angular is my first thought. Angular, I think, is a great framework, but has a steep learning curve and can be challenging for beginners. Um, Compared with React, for example. Uh, yeah, I think Angular or Quick is overrated framework.
What do you
I
think,
will go
Ale?
the opposite. I mean, what
You,
is considered the opposite in the market, React. React is probably too much overrated because it's popular and there are so many other options, Svelte, Vue.js, Angular, Quick, and
yeah,
vanilla
I'm agree.
JavaScript.
I'm going with React. I think that React. I think React is just popular because the learning curve is not that steep as Angular. But when you start doing really advanced things, it's not that easy. I mean, the whole thing with the hooks and all that is just like getting crazier and crazier. And I think that actually what saved a little bit of React was Next.js. That makes React easier because before that, like if you want routing, you need to pick your library. If you want this, you need to pick a library. If you need that, you need to pick a library. And I mean, there are developers that like that, but at the end of the day, it's always a trade-off, like when you're picking all these libraries. So, yeah.
Okay, from this perspective, yeah.
Okay, what is the most challenging browser to work with right now, now that Internet Explorer is, well, buried down 6 feet under?
Not necessarily. You might always get
I
to
shouldn't.
to an employer that have to continue maintaining some level of usage of Internet Explorer. Not my case, but I hear that could be something nowadays to continue maintaining. Gladly, there are so many polyfills out there that makes the life easier, but I will always pick Internet Explorer. Doesn't matter, what decade we are, but
But then pick one. What is your more challenging browser to work with?
oh,
Safari.
text-based browser, right? Like links, something like that, that requires a very tailored approach to HTML semantic in order to offer a non-visual experience. That
Oh,
could be very hard.
okay. What do you think, Nico?
I think the most challenging browser right now is Safari. It's often considered the most challenging because it often lags behind in adopting emerging web technologies. Examples
Hmm.
included delayed support for popular formats. For example, support WebP images is not available in Safari, or incomplete implementation of modern CC properties, or problem with progressive web apps, server workers, push notification. In Safari ecosystem, this kind of new web technologies is a challenge, and right now is Safari is a problem. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Nick on this one. Safari is the most challenging right now, even though in general browsers are, trust me, way better than they used to be. And Safari is keeping up. Apple hired really good people into the Safari. So yeah. Okay, the next one. Mobile first or desktop first or none. I don't know how none will apply though, but
I love fluidity. I
Only
mean, the same thing that you were describing earlier, Freddy. Try to make a component in isolation flexible enough to expand, contract,
gee,
going anywhere. Because if you are approaching your front end markup and CSS and any JavaScript that you put in the middle in order to offer interaction with the mobile capabilities first, you're probably missing other things that you need to curate and understand from the very get-go.
yeah,
okay, okay. It depends of the project, but for example, for create dashboard or admin panels, normally this kind of user use at desktops devices, but content consumption is more in mobile devices, and your project should provide a great mobile experience to take advantage of this traffic. I prefer mobile first. I will start with mobile first and scale on the other devices, um, just for take advantage of this kind of traffic. Always depends of the project,
yeah.
but yeah, I prefer start
I
with
would say
mobile.
that 80% of the time I start with mobile first, but sometimes I look at the design. I was like, I'm gonna start this one desktop first. It's just like I don't know, something in my head that says it's better this way. Okay, this is an interesting one. I let's see if we can let's see if we can respond to this one in one sentence. So you can
Mhm,
complete this one, and it's the biggest misconception about front-end development is. Want to take that one?
mhm.
I think the biggest misconception is front end is just about design and styling. Yeah, normally this is a misconception. Yeah, is front end is just create design
Yeah, like it's
things.
not a lot of engineer behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the more biggest conception of front end. They are other kind of skills, JavaScript skill, and logic, and they are lots of skills. But yeah, I think the misconception is thinking just front end is styling or design thing. Yeah.
I resonate
What's
with that.
yours?
My sentence will be like the biggest misconception about front end is that our role is to make things beautiful in the browser, making things look good. There's so
Yeah,
much beyond that. Web
Yeah.
yeah,
performance, understanding how to bridge companies with clients, users with users, creators with readers, the other way around. It's a huge, vast set of things that we need to take in consideration.
yeah. From my end, if I have to complete this, the biggest misconception about front end development for me is it was easier before, or jQuery was better. I think that's wrong in the terms of like on that time, um, the value that you have to do or the complexity that you have to apply was not near compared to what we have to do right now. Like right now, we have to like the user expect so many interactions and so many things and things quick and everything. That is like, no, you can never do that with jQuery. So it doesn't add up for me. So like, oh, this framework killer. I was like, I don't think so. And this one is a fun one. What's the one tool It could be anything. It doesn't have to be just tech. What's the one tool you can't live without?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
That's true.
I think you have
It's
Copilot.
invaluable. Yeah. Or Copilot, Gemini,
Yeah,
whatever.
AI chat.
Yeah.
LLMs in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For example, I really fan about Java Copilot. I think integrate with a VS Code or where your ID is so powerful. And right now integrate with the GitHub ecosystem, like a great description for pull requests or something like that is so powerful. And now I can live without Java Copilot.
And even beyond
Okay.
coding or debugging assistance, it helps you to brainstorm collectively, not just with another human beings, but with a copilot, with an assistant, with something else that gets you to understanding things from different angles. That's
Yes.
something powerful from the chatbots, and there is even more on the AI agents that are probably going to be around us very soon.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to say AI because you guys both say it. So my tool is actually this. I can't live without my AirPods. I
Okay,
lost them the other day and I was going nuts. Yeah, I use them all the time. So everything good comes to an end, but I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds for a quick wrap up and takeaways, and well, a minute or two, whatever. You can take whatever you want. And then please, how can we find you on social media? So Ale, you go up.
So takeaways, I will have to rewatch this session, but something that I took from you guys is how many misconceptions we might probably have, even us, before coming here to this table. So I think that I was super opinionated on certain things, and Freddy changed my mind, or Nico. So it's great to actually hear from the opinion and the sentiment of other front-end developers. So one of my takeaways is always go back to the community, go back to someone that not necessarily works side by side with you in your team, but in other companies, in other uh, areas of specialization, because you are gonna get too many insights from them that are going to scale up your level. And you can find me in X and also in LinkedIn. Just type my name, Alejandro Cuba Ruiz, because my handle in Twitter is very complex. So you're probably going to have a better time writing down Alejandro Cuba Ruiz over there and reach out if you have any questions.
great. And okay, takeaways. I think learn CCS more. I think it's my pending thanks because right now it's possible to create a lot of things with CCS without or avoid a lot of lines in JavaScript. Use AI to boost your productivity to move more quickly, and I think AI change this kind of ecosystem, and they are more things in the future. Um, I think be curious. Yeah, all days, every day, they are more techniques, frameworks, and concepts. And yeah, you just need to be curious about these new concepts. Yeah, you can find me or follow me in all social media network like a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, as a Nico Bytes. Yeah, follow me.
Nice. Well, my takeaway is I think we are in the best age for software development. It's so excited everything that is coming out. Um, and it's just like be curious, like Nico was saying. Automate yourself as much as possible, and don't close your eyes on only what you only writing code, and take a look at your peers and learn from them, talk to them, and make sure that you can bring more knowledge to your programming abilities. You're gonna find different aspects and different ideas. So yeah, that was it for today. Thank you everybody for being with us. It was great to have you both of you guys, and I hope I can catch you soon.